Back again with the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. That is not Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, who is in Brazil covering the Chiefs. James Palmer, host of Scoop City on the Atheltic, and 89 with Steve Smith is with us, a friend of the program. If you're a longtime viewer here of the Red, Gold, and Bold, and you probably have seen James, of course, you've seen his great work on television as well. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Going to dive into the Chiefs and Chargers, going to preview what to expect in this game, the biggest challenge, some of that, the international side of things. James has covered a number of, we were chatting before we got started, a number of these international games. What kind of challenges are involved there? Will the Chiefs be able to protect the quarterback? How will the offensive line look? That's a big question. What about the loss of Rashawn Slater for the Chargers? Justin Herbert, did they put enough talent around him? Should the defensive line be a concern for the Chiefs? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Off and running here on a Friday. Remember, you can catch us via the podcast, but you can also be a part of the conversation. Already a lot of people lined up in the chat room if you are with us Friday mornings at 10 o'clock. And Chiefs and Chargers, the NFL season is finally upon us. We saw the Cowboys and Eagles get things started. James, first of all, let's say welcome to you. Thank you very much for filling in. It's good to have you.
Oh, guys, this is great. When Jeff hit me up, I was like, let's go. I mean, I feel like my second family that I started in Kansas City with my fake wife and children there, with all the time that I spent covering the Chiefs over the last 6-7 years have left me. And I just feel like I've abandoned them and I haven't talked enough Chiefs lately. So I'm ready to do it. Let's do this.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Jeffy, already, I'm always last, but no, I'm always next to last because Sam's backdrop sucks. You always win, Jeff. You don't win this time. Where's your beautiful artwork?
James got 5 jobs, so he's got a lot more money coming in.
That's true. Well, no, my son painted this. He painted that.
No joke.
Yeah, that's my son. He goes to art school. He painted, but I still got me and Pat and Trav up there, which isn't a bad look either.
I like it. Yeah. Looks good. Very impressive. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And Sam McDowell, I was going to try to do it. We were like, okay, let's see. Guess what? The internet kind of sucks. So James was nice enough to fill in for us. And it is a big one, Jeff. Let's start about it. Does the Brazil thing, we saw special press conferences where the guys were cheery and bubbly and laughing at questions that they'd normally look sideways at. What does that mean? This team's loose. Does one team have an advantage? I think it's an hour less travel coming from LA than it is Kansas City. What do you put into the international side of things here?
I don't put a lot of stock into that part of it, the theatrical part of it, but I do wonder, the Chiefs have been so good starting the years out under Andy Reid, only a couple losses, and they're so focused and so ready. And sometimes you add this kind of stuff to the mix. It's different once you're into the season and you've gotten into a groove and you've worked some things out, but there are so many wild cards for this team. We talked about the offensive line and certain receivers having to step up, Rashee Rice, and are they going to be able to handle some of that stuff? Because if you're Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, your old pros, Chris Jones, you've been down this road before, but these new guys who are worried about making their debuts and being big playmakers for this team, it's kind of a challenge to deal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. James, we mentioned you've covered a lot of these. How much of a hurdle does this create for each of the teams? And is there any reason I think one team would be more equipped? The Chiefs' experience with the Super Bowl time and time again, they're no stranger to these international games. Is that going to play a role in this one?
I think so. I've, like you mentioned, I've probably covered more than a half a dozen games in Europe with the NFL. I covered the Mexico City game with the Patriots and Raiders, I think it was, at Azteca. Like I've covered these international games a lot, and the approaches that teams have differ greatly. I don't know if people know that. Like their preparation before they depart, like their travel plans. There really is a lot of discussions that go on between your traveling party and your traveling secretary, whether it's George Costanza or not. Like you do go through a lot to get ready for this. But I do think the Chiefs have a little bit of an advantage because when you play in Super Bowls, you play on a stage. You mentioned the press conferences. Like that whole week is very different. When I covered the Patriots during their runs, like they always felt like they had an advantage in Super Bowl week, right, Jeff? Because like they just have been through it so many times. So I do think the Chiefs playing in unique games and big games, big stages, and there's a lot of returning players and staff that these things you figure out, especially with Andy Reid leading the ship, on how you navigate those things. And I do think they have a slight advantage in that sense because they've been through it.
Yeah, we'll see. The big games, they're no stranger to it. They're a stranger to this field. What kind of, Andy Reid said before they left that, the league's on top of it. Do you buy that the league is on top of a field in Brazil, Jeff?
No, because these things have happened before. Obviously, they had a chance to deal with this stuff last year. They don't just pop in the Eagles and Packers last year and play a game and leave. They've been working on the field forever last year to get it ready for this. So I'm sure it'd probably be better than it was, but compared to what these guys are used to playing on, I'm sure it's not going to be optimal conditions because you're talking about a completely different climate, completely different country. Grass grows differently. It's going to be different. And so I don't expect it to be great.
Yeah, I know. I talked to a lot of people in Philly last year after they came back, and I'm not gonna lie, they hated the experience. They didn't like the field, they didn't like the situation, they didn't like the setup. I mean, they won the game, they beat the Packers, right? But they didn't like anything about the experience. I remember also, just real quick, I remember Bill Belichick walking on the field at Azteca in the afternoon on Saturday before like a walkthrough, and just kind of kicking around the sod and just the disgusted look on his face with the way the field did not live up to his standards is permanently burned into my brain. So yeah, I mean, like the league wants the game more than anything, and they will make sure that game happens. The other things around it are kind of secondary.
Yeah, and then they're making it clear the priority is to get the exposure, right? They're not really concerned with much else. I mean, that's
economics.
Economics. How about the game on the field, Jeff? The Chargers, we've been breaking down the AFC West. We've been breaking down the Chiefs all off season. What challenges does this Charger team specifically present for the Chiefs?
Well, the most obvious one is just running the football. You know what they're going to do. They're going to come in here and try to ground and pound and use that big offensive line and those big backs. So Marion Hampton, Najee Harris, it's the Jim Harbaugh way. And really, when you look at the Chiefs, we've talked all off season about a couple things with this team. One is running back. The other is defensive line, an interior defensive line. And so Mike Pennell now having moved on and Derek Nade coming back, the amount of depth, the amount of inexperience in that interior, that's going to be, I think, where this game is won. I mean, we know Patrick Mahomes is going to do great things and Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback, but this is a game that's going to be won in the trenches. And they went out and got Mekhi Becton for this reason. Big loss for Rashawn Slater. We'll talk about that later, but Joe Alt's a pretty good left tackle to throw in over there. They want to run the football, and that's what the Chiefs are going to see a lot of in this game.
Yeah. Ground and pound, is that what we're going to see out of this? I mean, there's no Colin Kaepernick to harken back to what Jim Harbaugh looked like with the 49ers. It's a different style quarterback, so we're not going to see that part of the equation. His same offensive coordinator he had with the 49ers, James. But should we expect that now with a second off season and try to put together the team that this is going to be a physical smash mouth team?
That's his DNA, right? That's Jim Harbaugh's DNA and Greg Roman's DNA, and that's the way they play football. And the run game was inconsistent last year. Obviously, you saw flashes from J.K. Dobbins, who's not there anymore. They really do have a lot of a lot of faith in Omari and Hampton. Like, they really think so much contact is coming, guys. Like, there are people in that building that think this could be the rookie of the year. Mine is Ashton Genty, but there's a lot of people in that building that think once you start seeing how physical he is, and they run a 2-back system with rotating between him and Najee should get the start. That's a big part of it. But to me, like, the one thing I wanted to mention is, are we ever going to see Justin Herbert get like over that hump? Are we going to keep seeing people like Joe Montana say, like, he's a guy I'd like to build my franchise around, but at the same time, just can't get over it? Like, we know the talent. He can't get over the Chiefs. Like, I've covered so many of those games. You guys have been at him. Like, it's like he plays the Chiefs and Mahomes so well, but then he always finds a way to come up short. Are we going to see in another year 2, with Harbaugh and Herbert together, and Harbaugh has not hit it at all, that he wants to make him a Hall of Famer, that he takes a big jump? I mean, it's like him and Peyton Manning are the two that had the first 5 seasons of just like numbers and no playoff success. And in year 6, what did Peyton do? Won the MVP, led the league in passing. Like, does that somehow come together for Justin Herbert? They got him some more weapons. To me, that's what I want to see, not just in this game, but this season. Does Herbert eventually change this team? Because they want to run the football, but you have that much talent at quarterback. Like,
well, and Jeff, I think James makes a great point, because Jim Harbaugh was asked about that very question, like, what do you have in your quarterback? Is he good enough? Is he the guy? And he immediately spun it around and said, we don't have enough around him. Like, we need everything else around him to come up to his level, which, I'll ask you, is that just coach speak, protecting his guy? I don't have better right now, so I'm going to shine a light on what I do have, and I'm going to support him. I'm going to have his back, right? And I'm going to say he's the guy. But, that was a statement made early on after last year. That was kind of his closing. I think he made that statement in his, end of the year briefing or what have you. And after that, they did draft Omari Hampton, did sign Najee Harris, did go out and draft another wideout, brought Keenan Allen back, added to the offensive line with Mekhi Becton. I mean, it does seem like he put his money where his mouth is. Would you buy that he's ready for that, coming out party that James talked about other quarterbacks having?
Well, I think Jim Harbaugh has always, you look at where he's been, whether it's Michigan or Stanford or the 49ers here, he's always believed in being an ex-quarterback. He's believed in the importance of the supporting cast. And so he's never going to look at it like, I've got this Patrick Mahomes type talent and he's going to take us to the promised land. And finally, this guy, he's always looking at it like, I'm going to build a great defense. I'm going to build a strong run game. I'm going to have tight ends who can work the middle of the field and block. I'm going to have a balanced offense, and that's what he grew up on. That's what he knows. And so I think James is making a valid point about Justin Herbert. He's got to get out of is he going in the direction of Trevor Lawrence Jeff, or is he going to move into the company?
Low blow for Justin Herbert.
He's kind of in that purgatory right now between those two spots of the elite and the guys who are never going to get there. But I think that's what Jim Harbaugh believes, is that he's going to, again, you see it with the offensive line, bringing Keenan Allen back, the kind of receivers he wants there, the Lab McConkey type guys. He wants a gritty team. And so anybody who's playing for Jim Harbaugh is going to be tough physically and mentally. And so I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think so as well. Does the defensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, if they are going to ground and pound, they throw in 400 pounds of Mekhi Becton into this offensive line, if that is going to be the strategy, how much should Chiefs fans be worried, Jeff, that that's one of the spots we've talked about. We've had circled all along. This weird, okay, we're going to keep Mike Pennell and let Derek Nottie walk off. And then, no. We're going to trade back for Derek Nottie, and then we're going to cut Mike Pennell. Whatever is going on there, is this maybe the worst, matchup to have to come out of the gates with?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But maybe one of the worst. I mean, you'll see other teams that have more talent and are better, but just, the way this is going to shape up. We've talked a lot about Chris Jones and his usage rate and the amount of double teams he saw and what he means to this pass rush. And so I guarantee you the Chargers' belief is we're going to have Mekhi Becton and Bradley Bozeman, these guys leaning on Chris Jones all game long. And when it comes time to rush the passer, he's not going to want to be doing that. He's going to be tired. And when we think about who else is left to really be a dynamic interior player for the Chiefs, we're asking a lot of a rookie in Omar Lott, right? We're asking a lot, Omar Norman Lott. We're asking a lot of Jerry Tillery, to be a good player. I mean, so who are we looking to fill that void if Chris Jones is not going to be an interior presence? I think it's a huge challenge for this team.
Yeah, James, I'm curious from a national perspective. I mean, we know the Chiefs are very well respected, and everyone knows that they're going to be at least good. I mean, a lot of people are predicting them to take a step back this year, but the defense has been great the last 2 years. Maybe not elite. That's a word we argue about with Jeff all the time about where the defense has been. But statistically speaking, they have been very good scoring defense the last 2 years. Really, really good 2 years ago with it. But the defensive line seems to be something that they have been chasing for a while. What is your view of the Chiefs' defense as a whole, but particularly starting with the front?
Yeah, I think what usually was a big part of this defense was their middle class, in all honesty. Like, and that's a part that's lacking in a lot of buildings, is that like your middle class is effective, right? And when other guys need a breather, you can make sure that they can go out there and you don't take a step back. And that was always been kind of like a little bit of a depth calling card for Kansas City certain years. And then this year you questioned it up front a little bit. And I think at the same time, Spags and company are a great group where they just kind of figure it out. Like, I think you don't want to figure it out in a divisional game to start the season, but you might have to. Like who's going to be the one to step up? I think you still do have a really good defense. What do you have? Like the vast majority of the starters coming back. You have a big question mark I think at how that safety spot when you lose Justin Reed is going to be filled. I think Nick Bolton returning, when I was talking to a lot of people there towards the end of last season, it literally, I don't think people understand how high it was on their priority list. Like keeping Nick Bolton in the middle of that defense and how that was, just to him as a player, but in terms of how the defense is run and how Spags wants that player on the field to run it the way he wants it. It's like he's standing in the middle of the defense running it. But there's still enough talent there. I'm just curious, to Jeff's point, like how the Chargers go about it to figure out where the weak spot is. Like they're going to want to run behind Joe Alt now that he's on the outside. Like that's where you would want to run if you're the Chargers. Like, and then do you add the element of like, he didn't do it at the end of the last season, but he can certainly do it. Like, do you start running Herbert on some stuff and you tire them out? Like you can do a lot of different things to figure out this defensive line. And I think as the Chargers are doing it, I think we're all going to do it at home too, about kind of what's working and what's not.
Yeah. James Robb, a great point about the safeties. We'll get into the Chiefs secondary. We mentioned they've added weapons there. The Chargers have in the passing game. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
This episode of Red, Gold, and Bold is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the secondary, Jeff. We've mentioned Justin Houston. They've only got two what are guys that have really played safety in their career on the roster. A couple other guys that have kind of been hybrids. Do the Chargers have what it takes to expose that? That's, if Christian Fulton's not up to speed, he only practiced for a little bit for this team. How vulnerable is the secondary? We can look and think, oh yeah, Harbaugh likes to run the ball, but if the vulnerability is in the secondary, are we looking at it backwards? And that's where they're going to attack.
Well, play action will be huge, right? They want to do a lot of that. Tackling will be big. We talked about the choices they made when it came to roster cuts, and you're going with two guys who are more hybrid safeties, bigger corners like Shamari Connor and Chris Rowland Wallace. Are those guys going to be able to tackle well in the box? Because all you got is Jaden Hicks and Brian Cooks after that. So that's going to be a factor. But certainly I want to see how Ladd McConkey matches up with those two guys in the slot, or if Trent McDuffie has to play there. You mentioned Christian Fulton being a wild card now. Are they going to have to keep McDuffie on the outside to make the secondary whole and have a lesser slot guy inside? If that's the case, then yeah, Ladd McConkey could have some big opportunities because we know what he can do.
James, I'm interested in your view of Ladd McConkey, because Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs took in front of Ladd McConkey, and Xavier Worthy had a fine season for the Chiefs, actually led them in touchdowns, came on especially in the second half, but Ladd McConkey had a better wide receiver season. He had over 1,000 yards, and with not a lot around him. I mean, what is your view of the decision the Chiefs made, Xavier Worthy over Ladd McConkey, and how these two will fare moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty early, right? So yet to be determined in that sense. But I will tell you this, talking to enough defensive coordinators that faced Ladd McConkey, they were blown away. I mean, blown away. And he was, you mentioned not a lot around him. Soren, he was their passing offense. Like literally, he was their entire passing offense. And I'm interested to see what year 2 is for him. And I'm interested to see what year 2 is for Worthy. But first with Ladd, it's the question I kept getting around the league was like, is he going to be able to withstand that workload physically? At the size he's at, and can he continue to carry the workload? Now they go out and they draft a couple of receivers. We'll see what Trey Harris is like. Quentin Johnson has not been what they've wanted him to be. They went and got Mike Williams, who was like a favorite target of Justin Herbert, and he was like, "Nah, guys, I'm good," and he hangs it up. And then they bring in Keenan Allen, but they need to find a way to relieve some of this stress off of Ladd. And I do think the matchup, and Jeff's spot on, how you use Trent against him. Where does Trent have to play? Do you lose him out of the box at certain times because he's a really good tackler, good against the run as well? And he has to follow Ladd. Is that what your game plan is? It's going to be interesting because tackling is a huge part of this. I think that's something that I think Chiefs fans are going to miss this year after the last 3 seasons going remember that guy who always made an open field tackle on third down, just all the time in Justin Reed? Yeah, that had happened. You remember that mistake eraser in Justin Reed? That guy's gone. And so with Worthy on the other side of it, I think, you always talk about it with quarterbacks, right? How you're drinking through a fire hose. I don't know why everybody uses that analogy because nobody drinks through a fire hose, but I thought that was Worthy's first year. He was supposed to be eased back. Hollywood Brown was supposed to have this role. They lose him early, and then I keep hearing about everything that's getting put on his plate. And you look at the end of the season, and you look at the way the Super Bowl goes, obviously not well for Kansas City, but you look at the way Worthy played, specifically in the back end of that, and Andy Reid's looking at that going I should have used him more, and I should have used him more. I know that there's a ton in this game plan for him. And so I think the growing pains maybe he went through his rookie year because of the role he was thrust into, I think only catapults him to a better second year. But I do know defensive coordinators were over the moon about Ladd McConkey. I mean, they were blown away by the rookie in how seasoned he was as a route runner and as a player.
Yeah, that was my guy. I understand the Chiefs want the speed and they want to stretch the field and they feel like they always need that piece. But, this is the guy we're going to chase. We spent a lot of times. How many times can you say the name McCole Hardman, Jeff, without hearing somebody say DK Metcalf?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? You can't
it's the same name. Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes
the same name.
Yeah, in this town. And listen, and they've been very accomplished as a front office. Obviously, they've made many more right decisions than wrong decisions. But that one kind of hangs around it. And listen, people talk about Brett Veach, but clearly Andy has a type, right? He has something that he wants. And when you're sent out to do the shopping for the guy who clearly has the pull, you bring him back what it is he wants. But I think, Ladd McConkey is really good. And it is going to be, I think it's one of the real priorities for this defense. And do you allocate Trent McDuffie to travel with him? Or do you think you can scheme it up and be more effective? I think Steve Spagnuolo and all defensive coordinators like to feel like they can just keep their guys on their sides, and that way they can disguise the coverages better rather than traveling with them. So this will be a good test if a kid already in his second year has your own defensive coordinator saying, "Well, I've got to move the chess piece with him wherever he goes." That's kind of a statement, right? It's kind of a big statement on where they're going with it. How about protecting? Where is your excitement, Jeff, about watching Josh Simmons and, more importantly, Kingsley Suamataia on the left side, more than just 21 snaps in a game against the defense coming for hell-bent for the quarterback?
Yeah, we're going to find out real fast. Real bullets flying now, the cliche is. But I like the matchup for them for their debuts in these positions, because you're not getting obviously Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or super dynamic pass rushers. Khalil Mack is 34 years old. He's past his prime. He's still a widely better. He can do some stuff, And I think the other guy's better, to be honest, at this stage. Tui Pelotu. He's had 8.5 sacks last year and was been a pleasant surprise for them. But they're not I think for Simmons, I'm curious to see how he handles speed, because that's what we knew gave a lot of the Chiefs left tackles last year problems. I think he's more suited to deal with bigger pass rushers, bigger body type guys, because he's got good quickness. He's got good size. I think he should do well. Suamataia is the wild card. We just don't know what we're going to get from him. And we know the Chargers have seen all the tape of him getting knocked over by linebackers and interior linemen. We know they're going to probably try to do a lot of things to overpower him, to get him going backwards. So that's really the one I want to see. How is he going to hold up? And how is that going to affect Mahomes? Because they want to throw the football down the field. Trust me, if your left tackle is not working, it's one thing. But if a guy's right in your face, a defensive tackle, it's even harder. So, and with no Rashee Rice there, no quick fix, no quick throw, that's Suamataia has to be on his game in this debut.
James, I'm curious how much that was something that came in front of you, how bad Kingsley Suamataia looked in pass protection to start. He was much better in game 3, although I think we didn't see him getting, toppled over like a weeble wobble or something like we did in one of the earlier games. I think a lot of people took that, myself included, and went, wow, that was a big jump. He made a big step. Some other people who will grade the tape are like, it wasn't quite as big a jump as you might think. There's some other things not to like. I'm just, how much, first of all, how important is left guard in your mind? And how much do the ugly plays of Kingsley Suamataia, make it on the national rounds?
Yeah, I don't think they make the rounds on the national routes. I hate to say it. I don't think Kingsley's like a high discussion topic point this offseason.
He might become,
but he might be if Patrick Mahomes is running for his life. Like I brought this up when I've been on the radio in Chicago and talking about the Bears. Like I don't think people understand. Like I really don't. Maybe even in Kansas City they don't. Like how good Joe Thuney is, and not just as a player. Like first off, I think he's a Hall of Famer, honestly. But like what he does for the rest of your offensive line. And I remember having these conversations with Andy Heck and having these conversations with Dave Tobe, and be like, he saved seasons. Like he did so many things around your offensive line just because of the IQ and the knowledge and all these different things. That's gone. And so like when you have that inexperience now together, it was always like he was helping the left tackle constantly, right? Like he's always, unless he's lining up out there. And so you have a lot of, I would test them physically, like Jeff's saying. I'd test that whole left side mentally too. I'm stunting, I'm twisting, I'm doing all sorts of stuff because they haven't worked together a ton in game, physical, next to each other. Like I would throw all sorts of different things at them mentally to see how they handle playing next to one another. And so I don't think we're giving Jesse Minter enough credit for the defensive coordinator he is. He might only be there for another year, honestly, before he gets a head coaching job. This defense doesn't have, I don't think, all the talent in the world, but they were a really good defense last year, really good. And so I'm curious to see what he does to line up on that left side. And do you put Mac over there? And Jeff thinks he stinks, apparently, but like the veteran.
He's old. Man. Like Travis Kelce's old. He doesn't stink.
That's a good point. No, I got you. But like, Jeff, you know what I mean? Like maybe he can he throw out a couple of those like savvy vet moves, savvy vet kind of things against two younger guys? Or do they load that side and put Mac on the other side wide and have him go against Taylor? Like I think there's different things they can do up front. And I think they're going to try all of them. Because obviously I think that's a linchpin to this game and to that offense.
I mean, isn't this, Jeff, like the Chargers are the example of, it's not just about collecting parts, right? Because like they have quickly said, okay, here are this roster that everybody loved and would pick the Chargers to win the AFC West time and time again, and started throwing those parts out and said, no, we're building a unit here. We're building a squad. I mean, the defense ranked tops in the NFL for much of last year. Now, a lot of people analytically would say, well, but they didn't do this, they didn't do that. But there's no doubt it is a good defense. They're not going to come out there and play dumb football. And they're not, clearly the group that they put together was not put together in a poor fashion. Jim Harbaugh knows what he's looking for. And this theoretically should be a better version of what he wants.
Yeah, they should. And keep in mind, Jesse Minter is part of that Baltimore Ravens, I think Fangio, Mike McDowell, they all play the same way. They want to build pretty much a net around the offense. And they play a ton of zone. I think they were one of the highest zone teams.
I think they were number one.
In the league last year. Number one. Yeah. And so you're going to see a lot of that. So throwing the football down the field is going to be really hard. And they're going to, to James' point, they're going to mix up their looks. They're going to mix up their fronts. They're going to do a lot of things as far as scheming up blitzes and opportunities to to send guys from different spaces. Maybe a guy Bud Dupree, another older pass rusher. What
do you think of Bud Dupree, Jay?
yeah, another guy's been around forever. But he's right. There is going to be a challenge mentally for some of these guys. And look, we all know the Chiefs will be prepared for this stuff. But it's a lot easier to play a team you don't play twice a year in your first game than it is to play a team you see that's in your division.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Jeff, you are becoming kind of an old hater, aren't you? Here,
I like it
with these comments.
I don't bet on old guys. That's how I am. I've learned that lesson a long time ago. Old guys don't get better.
I'm captain of the old guys get hurt club, but Bud Dupree came into the league. Wow, God, he's been around.
Don't they have Denzel Perryman on this team as well?
How old is he?
He's like 36 years old or something like that.
Bud Dupree is 32.
There you go.
Which is older than I thought. I will grant you. I mean, time flies when you actually are old, like me, because it doesn't seem like that long ago. I remember Bud Dupree on draft day and everything, and the highlight reels and all that kind of stuff. So, yes, I will grant you. He's older than I thought coming into this. Look, I think, the Chargers have dragged these games into the mud. Is unlocking, James, I'll ask you this, is unlocking the deep passing game what separates? Everyone keeps saying the one thing that I hear constantly on whether it's reading or watching on TV or listening nationally is, well, the Chiefs can't win all those close games. Right, 12 one-score games, they can't do it again. Sam McDowell likes to point out 6 games that were decided on the last play of the game with a 7th that was decided on the next to last play of the game when the Raiders botched the snap, and then the Chiefs kneeled down on the next play to end it. So 7 games that literally came down to the last meaningful play. But nobody ever offers up the idea that, well, maybe the Chiefs, instead of winning them close, will win them big. Is unlocking the deep passing game what could theoretically – I don't think anybody expects them to – only lose one game that they try. And we think the record's going to come back to the pack a little bit, but could they be a better football team? In how optimistic are you that they can get the deep passing game going? Real quick,
I believe the Chargers game was the one that hit the upright, right?
It was a doink.
And I remember being at that game, and I remember talking to coaches afterwards. And they're like at this point, we're literally laughing on the sideline that this is happening at the end of every single game. Like they couldn't even believe that this is the way all of these games have kind of turned out. But you're right. Like this is something, and it's not breaking news. It's something they've been trying to do for 2 years. It's just the way things went with Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice at the start of last season kind of hindered what they wanted to do a year ago with this explosive passing game. I remember talking to people at camp, last camp, and it was like, we're going to be more explosive downfield. We got to stop the dink and dunk stuff. You can't live. They had more 10-play drives than anybody else in football last year. You can't live a life that way. Maybe you can, but that's the way defenses want it to go. And that's the way the 2 high safety looks have been going against this team for a long time. But I think they have the firepower to do it. I don't think the loss of Rice impacts it as much as we may think, because he's not the deep threat. Now, he was the one who's going to benefit from stretching the field. I think he's the main target. I think they think the world of him. But his shallow crosses and stuff like that, we broke that down on our show, with me, Steve Smith and I. Steve is in love with Rashee and what he can do across the middle in terms of the shallow crosses and his feel. But when you got multiple players that can stretch the field, I think obviously we're talking about the offensive line allowing these plays to develop, but you have what you thought you were going to get in Hollywood Brown and a ton of chemistry between him and Pat 2 years ago. You build on it again. You didn't get to use it last year. Can you go downfield? That's our number really one question. And I don't think, if you ask around the league, because I kind of did this, I was trying to get some prep in. Jeff gave me some prep. They don't have a ton of guys that beat man coverage, for the skill spots. They really don't. It's Andy's schemes that really help a lot of this. And so how does that all come together? I think they want it to happen. But I think we have to see it. They have the body still to do it because they prepared for it without Rashee. They knew this was coming. And they did it last year without him. So the schemes are going to be really important. And the time to throw is going to be everything. And I think they want to be different. Let's see if they can be.
Yeah, I think James, makes a great point on some of the shallow stuff with Rashee Rice. You can be explosive throwing the ball short. Sure. You can get the guy running into space. That's part of it. I think what a lot of people are looking for is you got this big arm quarterback. Well, let's get it down the field. Let's get behind it. And we saw that a little bit in preseason, Jeff. Where is your optimism that we're going to see it in a game?
Not very often. Teams know they're going to take it away. They know what they want it because they're not going to run the football consistently. And we've had discussion many times. If you want to create explosive plays, it's going to happen through one of two ways. It's not just the quarterback being great. You either have to have great receivers or you have to have a great running game to create play action, to suck people up, to create those opportunities down the field. And they don't have receivers. Think about all the big plays you see in the NFL over the course of a week, or even the ones you saw yesterday. CeeDee Lamb dropped 2, but it's CeeDee Lamb. It's Justin Jefferson, it's Jamar Chase, it's A.J. Brown, like the receivers who are super dynamic. And then the ones who aren't doing that are the ones who can hand the ball off to, Jahmyr Gibbs or whoever else you want to throw in there with a great running game. Lamar Jackson's got Derrick Henry, or Lamar Jackson has Lamar Jackson. You manufacture big plays with those things. And the Chiefs...
The Bills do it, Jeff. The Bills do it.
The Bills do it that way. Yeah. And so without that, it's the Chiefs are... Obviously, you cannot take anything away from what they've done. They've been phenomenal. But they are not where they were in 2018, 2019 in terms of having way more talent than everybody else. They've come back to the pack in terms of talent. And so they've got to add those things again to be able to be a consistently dominant downfield passing team.
Yeah. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. We'll get into what the expectations are. I'm interested to hear James's thought from an outside perspective. We also want to get to our keys to the game. We'll also make our predictions on this game. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. We have seen Patrick Mahomes win 2 MVPs. We've seen him win 3 Super Bowls, win Super Bowl MVPs, but there seems to be this consensus right here that here in town, at least, that as we look at what the perception is nationally, that Patrick Mahomes is coming back to the pack. We've talked about all the issues, James, that they had a real problem at left tackle. They had to take their all-world left guard and play him at left tackle, where clearly he was overmatched physically against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Jeff just talked about they don't run the football well enough, so it's not like he's got this great running game to lead on. The injuries, suspensions to wide receivers. Where do you sit? What is the reality 3 years from now, 4 years from now? Are we going to look back and laugh at this, kind of like the 2014 when Tom Brady was declared done on a Monday night game in Kansas City when he got beat up a little bit? Are we going to look back at it like that, or are we seeing kind of the second half of Dan Marino's career where, yeah, he was still a very good quarterback, but he wasn't out in front setting records beyond what anybody else could possibly do?
Has anybody said Patrick Mahomes is done?
Like,
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Soren has different news feeds than we do.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say
Well, let me be clear, because you are. I did say all those things, but I didn't put it with Patrick Mahomes. That Tom Brady was done in 2014.
Okay.
If you remember that Monday night game here, the Chiefs whipped up on him, and Tom Brady was like 36 or 7, and that was it. He was done. Everyone decided that was it. He'd go on to win 4 more Super Bowls and play in 5 more, right? But that was the flag in the ground. I remember nationally, guys, trumpeting that. And it's not to that degree with Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's going to turn 30 in a couple of weeks, or a week and change. But there is a sense that the Chiefs' high-flying days are over, and Patrick Mahomes' record-setting days are over. Do you agree with that?
I think we're in another era of Patrick Mahomes football, and I think that's fine to say. I like that you brought up Brady because, I'm prepared to say it. Now you said he's approaching, he's approaching 30. I think his next birthday would probably be, let me check the math. He'd be 31 after that. like, I'm ready to say he's like Brady. He's the most like Brady guy I've ever seen, Jeff. And you've covered Tom, and I've covered Tom. And there's certain guys like Peyton Manning that need their stats. Like, they just need them. They want their yards. They need their stats. I think Pat is the next closest player that we've seen to Tom, that winning is really what matters, and it doesn't matter how we do it. We've seen him change the way he plays due to the personnel that's around him, like you mentioned, due to the defense that he's playing with, due to the situation that he's in, and he finds ways to win. Like, I don't think he's any less of a player. I still think he's a playmaker for sure. I think we shouldn't disregard the other talent that's out there. Lamar Jackson's a great talent. Like, Joe Burrow's a great talent. Like, Josh Allen's a great talent. Pat's still a great talent. It's those four, and I don't think anybody's taking him out of those four. What I think's happened is they've found ways to win differently, and I think that's okay. I mean, winning is the most important part of this sport, honestly, and I think Pat has that in his DNA to do whatever's necessary to win games. I think there is a bit of an itch, though, of like, hey, we used to do it this way. That was kind of fun. What does he say in Happy Gilmore when he puts it in like in one shot? That was so much easier than putting. Like the deep shot is great as opposed to like 50 plays going down the field. Like, of course, but he still finds a way. We mentioned those 10-play drives. Does he turn the ball over on those? That means he's not turning it over. It means he finds first downs. It means he keeps defenses on the field. Like, he still does everything right. I think he's smarter at the position. I think he's better at the position. I think you're right, though. I think there's less around him, Jeff. I do think, you have a generational talent at two spots that you're throwing the football to, like unique players as they can be in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Those players don't come around very often, and he took advantage of them. And now they're taking advantage of how they're built now. And so I think he's just more savvy, and anybody who's writing him off in any sense doesn't understand, I think, exactly what he's doing or what he's working with.
My favorite part of what you said there was Peyton Manning needed those stats.
He did.
Those players. That is just such a great way to illustrate the point and maybe the nuances and differences between the quarterbacks. Jeff, do you think that if Rashee Rice comes back and if Xavier Worthy's healthy and takes a step forward, everybody can get better, and year one to year two oftentimes is a big leap for wide receivers. If that happens, do you think that, and the left tackle is nailed down, Kingsley Suamataia progresses throughout the year, could we see high-flying Patrick Mahomes again? Do you believe that is still within him if they put the offense around him?
I think, like I said, I think you have to have a lot of great players show up to be that kind of offense. Like, are they going to think about the top offenses last year, whether it's Philadelphia or Buffalo or Baltimore or even Tampa? Look at Tampa. Tampa has a way better supporting cast.
Ton of talent, yeah,
than what Patrick Mahomes has working for him right now. And so that can happen certainly down the road. You have to keep drafting and developing guys. But to James' point, it's right. This is a transition into a new era for Patrick Mahomes. And I've always felt like, and I've said it many times, that every decade you're going to have one guy who jumps out ahead of the pack. Mm-hmm. He loves him. And then all of a sudden, all these other guys emerge. And so whether that's the group we had in the 80s with Joe Montana was the guy, but Jim Kelly was there. Warren Moon was there. Marino. In the 90s, you had Kurt Warner came out of nowhere. Brett Favre showed up in Green Bay. Troy Aikman won all those championships. Every decade has that. And so I think what you're seeing more so, it's not so much the Mahomes is coming back to the pack. I think the pack is catching up to him.
Good point. No, it's true.
You look at where Lamar Jackson was and Josh Allen were in their development even a couple of years ago and what they are now. They're way better quarterbacks. And so there is a point when Patrick Mahomes can't go much higher than where he's at because he's done everything. But those guys' growth has made this conversation different. It doesn't mean that he's a lesser than because of it.
I think there's a little bit of the first guy kicks down the door, lets everyone else know what they're capable of, and then everyone's better behind it. I mean, Steph Curry, I go back to the NBA days when like Vernon Maxwell had the NBA 3-point record for a single season at like 140. Right now, you suck if you don't hang 250 up there, right? Because Steph Curry went for 400 threes, and you went, "Oh, this is possible. You can launch that many." And I think that's a great point, Jeff. I think he showed what you can do. Manning showed what you can do. Brady showed what you can do, and then the other people, they now know. Well, I'm here. I got to keep working because I know I can get up to here. It's now not, landing on Pluto. It's just getting to the moon. We've been there. We can do it. Let's make this happen. I think that's a great point. James, I'm curious, the Andy Reid part of the equation. Jeff is right. Things happen and then things catch up, right? A lot of times offense gets better, defense catches up. Defense has caught up for 2 or 3 years now, hasn't it? Isn't it time now for the offense to take a leap? And if Andy Reid is still on the cutting edge, if he is still as sharp as everybody, would like to think, then he should take that next step away from the defense, right? This should be sometime soon with a Hall of Fame quarterback. Shouldn't he figure this out as to what it is that the shell defense, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4? There's nothing new, right? Yeah. They took a step forward, previous to this.
I thought they figured something out last year, honestly. The player just got hurt. I mean, you go look in the first 4 weeks at the number of targets that Rashee Rice had. Yeah. It was astronomical compared to the rest of the group. So what does that tell you? It tells me a couple of things. One, obviously Pat had a lot of trust in him in year 2 with him. 2, he was open a lot because Pat doesn't throw to guys that aren't getting open. And 3, it tells me they were scheming him open, and that was part of the offense. Like that was so successful at the start of the season. Like they did find an answer, I think, to some of this, because we're talking about how defenses are playing this offense, and obviously Andy Reid still adjusts so well and still is such a great play caller. I think the Athletic just had a ranking of the best offensive play callers. I think he was 4, I want to say. Maybe that's a little low, but I think he's right to 4. Still great. They found a player that runs down the field like a running back when he gets the ball in his hands. And if we can get underneath this too high, we can get underneath these deep coverages and we can burn these guys. And guess what? These guys don't want to tackle this dude when he gets ahead of steam. Like that was an answer. So I feel like they did find an answer in some sense. But a lot of times when you find answers, and we're talking about how Andy schemes guys open so well, it's true, but you still need the player to perform the act. You still need the player to go out there and run the route you need it in the way you need it to be run. I still think they'll try to find different ways to get Worthy the ball. You know what I mean? With the different creative ways to create explosives. Like you guys said earlier, all explosive plays are not created equal, and they're not all just throwing the football downfield. I think they've found some answers. They've had some setbacks in how they've been able to continuously be able to use those answers.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think about Andy Reid? I mean, is it again personnel to James' point? Is it, hey, go get the great running back that can, I love the Happy Gilmore line. Hey, hole in one, it's way easier. You don't have to putt. It's also way easier if everything doesn't have to be a brilliant route tree concept of meshing 3 and 4 or 5 guys together. If you can just turn around and pitch it to the running back and he can go get you 7 or 8, that means those gotcha plays don't have to be wheeled out as much. I mean,
Saquon makes life easy.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Jalen Hurts threw for 130 yards yesterday, and they scored 3 touchdowns in their first 3 possessions. I mean, that's kind of the way the way the NFL is going. And, I mentioned this last week when Cooper Kupp was talking about just how much the NFL has changed in the last 6-7 years. And he was saying that when 2018, 2019, when Sean McVay was starting out with the Rams, like they were just way ahead of the defense. Not just them, but the Chiefs and all the other teams. But then Vic Fangio came along and Brandon Staley came along and all these, the McDonald's, and they all brought the same concept of, we're shutting down the deep passing game. We're playing matchup coverages. We're getting better athletes, which is the big difference. Just the point James made a little while ago about just the level of ability to beat man coverage within the Chiefs. Yeah, that's a real problem for a lot of teams, because you see a guy like Patrick Surtain in real life, or you see the abilities of someone like Derwin James or what Micah Parsons can do to you now. They're just better athletes playing on the defensive side and better schemes. And so we talked about Steve Spagnuolo keeping Chris Rowland-Wallace and Shamari Connor to be his safeties as opposed to Mike Edwards. Well, we got to have those guys to cover now because we can be more multiple with those guys. That's the way it's going. So it does make it harder on guys like Andy Reid to scheme stuff up. I mean, the Chiefs aren't the only ones facing these problems. I keep saying it. The Bills get away with it. The Ravens get away with it. The Eagles are getting away with it, largely because they have quarterbacks who use their legs a lot more than Patrick Mahomes does.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you ask any defensive coordinator, first question you got to ask yourself, is the quarterback a threat to run, right? Do I have to account for him? And all those teams you mentioned, Washington as well, Jaden Daniels. Yes, he's a threat. We have to account for him.
He was their leading rusher last year.
Yeah. Let's be clear. They don't run designed runs for Patrick Mahomes, but he is a threat to run. We saw some teams spy him for his, like part of Andy Reid's genius, I think, is he does create escape hatches for the quarterback to take off. It's not a coincidence that he has gone from Donovan McNabb to even like guys like Jeff Garcia when he was, really desperate. But Mike Vick, Alex Smith, always guys that if it goes to hell in a handbasket, take off. I'll try to give you a little escape hatch here, and you let's just get the first down. We'll get to some new new set of downs, and we'll get deeper into it. I think there is an element of the run game, but it's certainly not the designed instant pressure that you put on the defense like these other teams do.
Yeah, Soren, I'll give you a funny point. I was watching a video with John Gruden talking about one of his favorite plays that the Eagles run, and I'm not trying to love on the Eagles today. They got their own issues we saw last night. We talked about
what happened last night.
Spinning part of it.
Yeah, spinning was part of it. And the second quarter is an issue. But he talked about a play that they run that he loves called pigeon. And he said it starts off with A.J. Brown doing a Z-orbit motion, running a motion behind the quarterback. So Hurst can fake to him or throw it to him. He can hand the ball to Saquon Barkley on a dive play. If that's not open, he can pull it and run to the right as a runner, or he can pull it and run and throw it to the tight end. So you got 4 options on one play, throwing the ball to 4 guys who are Pro Bowl players, or 4 guys handling football. That's the kind of stuff that's happening in the NFL now, that the Chiefs, as great as they are, as great as Andy is, they got to start creating those kinds of concepts too.
Yeah. I think, Jeff, how about this? Like, you mentioned him real briefly earlier, and I was thinking about him, and now I'm thinking, having that back that catches a lot of balls, that is that Swiss Army knife back, the James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs. Yep. That you mentioned Gibbs, so that's what I started thinking about. It is that's becoming such a concept in the NFL.
Yep.
Like that guy running routes out of the backfield, and it's an instant mismatch, right, for who he's lined up against. And I don't see that really in this offense. You don't really see it. Like that player is becoming so important. That smaller back, that guy. And I'm curious how Andy views that position, because I don't see it really in this offense. We've seen it before.
I think it's a great point, James. I think he somewhat invented it with his guys he had back. And
of course, it was like Brian Westbrook and those guys. That was a huge. That was everything. They'd rather throw it to Brian Westbrook than run it with Brian Westbrook back in Philly.
And I think he had Kareem Hunt was very good catching the football when he first came along, and I think he'll be their third down back. He's not going to be the kind of guy you're talking about, but really, I think a healthy Christian McCaffrey is the new plan. And Saquon Barkley's kind of that, just even bigger, although Christian McCaffrey's offseason made it look like he may have been trying to win a Mr. Olympia more than a football game. But I think you're absolutely right. And the Chiefs don't have that. And that's why I come back to, and it's not that the personnel department has failed, it's that you pick 32 in every round.
Yeah,
right?
It's tough.
It is hard.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, like, I know nobody's Saquon Barkley on this planet, but like, how many times last night did you see him line up outside the numbers? A lot.
Yeah.
Like they motion him out there a ton, and like you're trying to find mismatches constantly. And Travis has always been that for this offense all the time. And now you got to find a way to pivot in a sense, because that was your constant mismatch against whoever you put against, whether it was a safety or a linebacker or a nickel. He was going to win it because it was your consistent mismatch.
Yeah.
Now that player is either an athletic tight end that plays outside the numbers, like a Brock Bowers or somebody like that, or it's that running back like a Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not seeing that as much here, and sometimes that's some of your personnel things, but you're right, where you're picking is a huge part of this. It's a huge part of this.
I think and people will say, well, Jerick McKinnon was the catch the ball part of the equation, but he wasn't run it. The ultimate weapon is having the guy who's the threat to pitch it to him and have him run it and can go catch the ball like Jerick McKinnon. They have been really, I think the entire since Jamal Charles, they had a season of Kareem Hunt. And otherwise, they have been piecing it together with multiple guys. Spencer Wares, Darrell Williams, Damian Williams, even Isaiah Pacheco. I mean, he's a 7th-round pick. I know it looks – there's a lot of motion there, and it looks kind of exciting, but he's just
Hey, Soren, Saquon Barkley was available. Derrick Henry was available, right?
Yes.
Actually, the team really overpaid.
Right? Imagine this offense with these guys. We would have a segment right now.
Well, I will tell you. I will tell you, when the Giants were floating around Saquon Barkley at one point, I know there were calls made from Kansas City to New York. Now, were they with real intent to try and go get him, or were they just like, oh, Will a 6 get it done? I don't know. But, I mean, I think everybody saw what Saquon Barkley was. And we know the injuries were a big question for him. They're a big question for all running backs. And listen, I'm sure there are people screaming at us right now. The Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. They have played in 5 of the last 6. And that's all valid. But we're talking about if everybody's catching up, how do they jump back in front? Yeah. And I think James is right. I think being more dynamic at that running back spot is a part of it. Jeff, what are the keys to a Chiefs victory in this game?
Protect Mahomes, first and foremost. Let's eliminate the offensive line as being a question. Secondly, defend the run. Third is find an option not named Rashee Rice to be a consistent threat in the passing game. But we all talk about how Rashee Rice was transitioning into being the number 1 receiver for this offense. What are you going to get from the guys who are left now? Is Travis Kelce going to be, super fit and doing this thing again? Is David Worthy going to make that leap? Is Hollywood Brown going to be able to get through a half of football without being injured? I think those are the big 3 things for me. If they do those things, they have those things go right for them, they're going to win the game. But those are also some wild cards too.
How about you, James? What are the keys for the Chiefs winning this game?
No, I mean, I'm pretty on par with Jeff. I mean, there's a couple things. I think in this passing game, really, there's only one person to worry about, and that's Ladd McConkey. I'm curious what Spags' game plan for that is. I think the Chiefs are one of those teams that actually do game plan specifically for Ladd. That's how much they do respect him. I know that for a fact. That I think that makes them one-dimensional. Obviously, what you want to do, we know they want to run the ball. We know, and if you can get them in 3rd and longs, that's huge from that aspect. I think keeping that offense off the field is important because I think that's essentially what the Chargers are going to try to do. They're just going to try to keep Pat off the field. That's their game plan essentially. So just can you counter that with doing almost the same thing? And then the other part is we barely mentioned this man's name this entire hour, and like Derwin James found his spot last year with Jesse Minter, and they moved him everywhere. And I remember talking to Pat back in the day where he'd be like, he'd be anywhere, and I have to find him pre-snap. Now he plays nickel. He still does all these different things out of nickel, but Jesse Minter took him to kind of another level next year, this past year, and they're building on that this year. You can't kind of let him kind of dictate some things defensively. I think that's kind of a part of this. And you're right. I think the biggest thing coming out of this game really is the narrative. There's been 3 main storylines this offseason, right? Micah Parsons and how Jerry botched that. Caleb Williams and is Ben Johnson going to unload it, and the AFC West. Those are the 3 storylines of this entire offseason. And I think you make a statement if you mop the Chargers in week 1, because all anybody's been talking about is the Broncos. Like all anybody's been talking about is how these coaches have caught up to Andy Reid. I think you want to, honestly, I don't know if you have to make a statement, but I think making a statement is actually part of this game.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Let's get to our predictions. We'll finish with that. I will tell you that we have gotten a number of texts from Sam McDowell down in Brazil this morning as we've gone along. A couple things to preview ahead for future Red, Gold, and Bolds. One, he watched the game in the lobby restaurant. Roger Goodell was there, and he got to enjoy Roger Goodell's reaction to Jalen Carter. So we're going to hear.
Wow. It'd be full circle if Roger Goodell was taking a drink and he spit out his drink watching the spit.
We're going to hear that. We're also going to hear, he sent us a picture. We said, hey, are you watching the podcast? He said, no, I'm watching this. And it appears to be a military-dressed police officer standing in the street, I'm guessing directing traffic, with firearm drawn at his side. So that should be interesting. And then we have Sam's prediction for the game. If anybody out there is wondering, Sam's got the Chiefs winning 23-16 in this one. So Sam McDowell weighs in. James, you're the guest. What do you got? What do you think? How's this game go?
I think the Chiefs end up winning. I'm going to say 24-14.
Okay.
It's going to be
it's a blowout.
It's a blowout. You think so? I think so. That's 24-14. Yeah, I'm saying
24-14. 47 is the over-under on the game for those that are interested. So he likes a defensive, divisional slugfest. Jeff, where are you at?
I like that too. I got him 21-20. I think it comes down to a last-second field goal. Start the season the way it was going last year with this team. Last play of the game win.
Jeff, are you predicting, because I can picture this, the Chargers go for a field goal, turf is slippery, slip, miss field goal, Chiefs win.
Dicker the kicker. Just flying, goes sliding down.
Goes sliding down the side of the field. Yeah. Harbaugh goes nuts.
I was leaning towards 27-20, but that comes right down on the 47, and I hate being that guy that's going to pick right on the number. So I can sit here and somehow claim, oh yeah, I had it right over, by a half on this book. So I do think it's going to be a little more high scoring. I think the offense is prepared. I think they knew the back of their mind Rashee Rice was not going to be here. So I don't think it's a big shock to the system that they're going to have to play without him. So I think they're going to have some things cooked up. I think Patrick Mahomes is on a revenge tour. And I think it starts. I'm not going to unleash the fury. Not yet. And I know there are people that are always waiting on me to do it. It's not happening yet. But I think this game is something in the neighborhood of 24-21 Chiefs, and then they drive it down, put it away for a 10-point, 31-21, 31-20. I'll go 31-20 is my final on this one. So I like the Chiefs to win.
Like that quick soccer pitch down there.
Did they break 20 in either game last year? What was that?
The scores in last year's games
was 17-10. I know that. What was the
for
1917?
Yeah. Was one of them, and the other one was 17-10. Yeah. Yep. So no, they never got to 20. So it's a whole new year, Jeff.
That's
a whole new year.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a bold new approach.
Right. The fury smoldering.
That's right. And I'm not unleashing the fury yet. But I'm optimistic that I will have to do it later. You can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Frontier Justice. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top gear, strong sense of community at Frontier Justice, frontier-justice.com. And our friends at Italian Delight, just a few minutes east of the Speedway on State Avenue. The first to bring New York-style pizza to Kansas City. 50 years ago, family owned and operated. You can find them online. You can order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. For our man, James Palmer. Thank you very much, James, by the way.
Thank you guys for having me. This was awesome.
Always great to talk with you. Love your work. Keep it up. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have you on again as well. For Sam McDowell down in Brazil, for Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.